Hey guys, it's a new video. Very short, very sweet. I'm going over how to start your Pilates studio as somebody who had done it after working for a couple of different locations, clinics, group studios, and private studios the last 8 years of me teaching. And this is just from my general experience, in that I always knew that I would rather work for myself than for somebody else, just because my requirements for care is different. But obviously, for those of you who like training within a gym, clinic, or studio, maybe just an idea for the future if you end up planning to teach less and hoping to work from home kind of things. So essentials for starting, I always recommend a very simple online program for scheduling. I used Square Appointments, is what they're called now, and that's through the Square processing platform that does cards payments, because that was the simplest and easiest. I have also used another program which was similar to that, but a little bit different in the sense that you were able to customize the emails a little bit more, which is more what I needed as I continued to grow, because of the route that I was going was more catered towards people with injuries. So I wanted to be able to get a part Q from them for their history and their general exercise goals and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. Depending on what you're looking for, you can start very simply. And then there's other things out there now that are a little bit more in-depth, but it may not be something that you actually need because it has a little bit too many robust add-ons to it. But I have always steered away from Mindbody just because of how the platform is and how it kind of puts you in the spending that requires you to scale a little bit more than how a small studio would need to. So things to consider. I'll put a couple more details in the description on other platforms that I've heard people use that they have liked for themselves and for their studios as it grew. But again, that may not be for you. My second point is also knowing what you want out of your studio. Some of us will always prefer adding mat work, but mat work does take space as well as the equipment. So if you are doing mat work and equipment, you may need a little bit different of space layout rather than how I have currently, which is majority equipment, because most of my clients cannot do most of the mat work, but we do incorporate it here and there. Of course, you're always able to use a tower for your mat work, but some clients do find it a little fearful because they don't want to fall. So if that's not any of your clients, then hopefully you'd be able to use that as well. And then having a little bit of floor space around you, around your equipment, helps you as the teacher, so that way you can have room to adjust clients, give them different cues, and make sure that there's some sort of level of understanding between the symmetry of sides. In regards to specific equipment, how do you start with a small studio? You don't really need a lot, technically. You do need to make sure you can cover your basics. So can you cover your rent if you're renting? Can you cover the equipment? Can you cover if the equipment gets broken? Things like that. So overall, you'll kind of want to do this based off of a numbers game and figuring out what works for you in your scenario. So if you're starting completely fresh and you're working at other studios already and you maybe have like 3-4 hours in the week to add on your own things, then maybe you're just renting for an hour at a space, or using a co-space with other practitioners. So people who do massage or who do acupuncture, they may be able to just put their table away and then you're able to use the space. So that's another option. As you continue with equipment, you do not need a lot of equipment. You can start off with just the mat props that you'd like to use for yourself. But I always suggest, if you are doing mostly mat work, that you have options, because giving clients the opportunity to see how the props can help them and how the props can also create ease in certain moves and also increases difficulty over time. So it gives them a range of an idea of how the mat work can be easier or harder as they continue. And also keeps people in that sense that, like, oh, I'm not terrible at this. I'm actually able to do it given the right circumstances. So those props will help them feel a little bit at ease and not feel left out. As for the equipment that we use, so I started with the reformer tower and I had my step barrel. Those were my two ones that I started with, because I was able to get a business grant during the lockdowns, and I was not really working at all during that time, as everybody knew, because I did not have a lot of options here in LA. But because of that, I was able to get this used reformer tower that I use majority of the time with my clients. And then as I continued to grow, then I ended up getting the chair. So those were the 2-3 things that I had in the beginning. Eventually I added the ladder barrel because I know I benefit from it and I can see how other clients can benefit from it. But other people probably would have gotten a Cadillac, which is a lot more expense than I wanted to pay for how many clients I was seeing at the time. It may be something I'll add on in the future, but it's not something I need at this moment because the tower itself was enough for now. As for the props, I love props. As you can tell in my previous video, if you've seen it, I use props all the time. I have yoga blankets now, I have yoga straps, I have yoga mats, I have a bunch of different weights. I have real dumbbells, so up to 15 pounds, and then if I actually got the ones that I have at home, they're up to 25 if I remember. But these are all optional. You do not need as many props as I do if your client base is not people who have a lot of issues going on and don't need the props to support them. The goal is essentially to get them where they feel good. So once clients start feeling good in something, then we add a little challenge. So maybe the props may be their challenge, or maybe just changing how the exercise is and then changing the format of your routine. There's a lot of ways to do it. A lot of my clients know the basics, so they know their how to flex their spine, how to make sure they're breathing, and how to do their footwork. Everything else is a little bit more detailed, and then I go into that because day-to-day things change. So those are the major things in regards to equipment to start your studio. And then you have other things that come up. So those smaller things like the foot corrector, actually a really good thing to have if you know how to use it. I do suggest taking a workshop if you do not. You also have a lot of options for pre and postnatal clients. So there's a couple different wedges and props for that from Mindbody. Not sure about the other companies. I haven't seen too many other variations, but I have the normal wedge, which they've had for a long time. And then I also have their newer wedge, which is kind of like the light barrel I have hanging up on the wall. Same kind of density, but it's a little bit smaller than their old wedge. So those are some options. I know some clinics use a C-shaper, which I think the Murthu has it, and I don't remember seeing it on Mindbody, but I think they used to. Other newer equipment companies don't have those. So those are additional things. If you do get them, make sure you measure to see if it fits on your equipment, if it's not from the same company. So that is one thing, because I've tried that at one clinic and it did not fit. So we had to figure out something else. There's orthopedic pillows that people use as well. A common one you see is this blue looking one for people on the headrest. So that is another option for props to keep their head elevated from their chest. For starting up, if you are going based off of pure numbers that you see online, and with the increases over time with inflation and things like that, I would say you'd probably want 10,000. 10,000 easy peasy for the equipment alone. If you are a mat only instructor, then I would suggest maybe around 1,000 and starting from there, and then eventually getting more props, more equipment as your client base grows if you plan to teach more like the group mat class setting. So those are kind of my suggestions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask below or DM me, and that way I can help you. I'm always open to assisting new teachers and just other teachers in general who don't have a lot of other teachers around them to talk to, because, you know, the States and the world is very broad, and this is a very niche community, but one that has always been a little bit hush-hush on things. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.